Hello!
Hi!
Welcome to DnDTime Brews, a wonderful little show here where Pete and I and you and me and Pete and you and Pete and you and me and everybody really, we
All
sit
of
down
us.
and we relax and we homebrew some cool magic items or spells or race options or whatever for Pete and Jeremy's D&D time. Pete, how you doing?
I am very good. That's all I had to say about that. I'm very good. I don't have a brew tonight, unfortunately. And by unfortunately, I mean I just didn't want to drink tonight because I'm not feeling 100%. So
I
I'm
have
excited.
my Nestle Pure Life water, so as I drink every night. I went through 8 of these on Friday. 8 bottles of water. It's a lot of water, not a lot of time.
That is a lot
My
of
cat
water.
is screaming.
They say it's good for you though. Drink big water. So you're doing good. You're doing right by you, Jeremy.
I guess so.
Yeah. But while I may not have a drink, I am excited to. I don't have any good transition to brew some magic items. And hello to chat. I see a lot of people hanging out. Sheba's here. We got Max Meister. We got Blood Deuce. Maddie Morgs has toasted and raised a glass. Hello to all.
Oh, I just am moving stuff around and whoop, sorry, stream. There we go. We're back. All
Yes,
right.
I am back. I am back.
I was just I wanted to open up the actual stream to make sure we weren't having any issues there, and I realized I probably shouldn't open that up on the screen where you all can see each other.
Willy-nilly.
But yeah, I'm very excited. It's gonna be a very, very good one.
I agree.
And hopefully it'll be a good one for you too, chat, to kind of get a look or an understanding of how we do things, right? How our process is, what happens when you submit an item for the Big Bag Bonanza. So yeah, let's kind of just dive right into things. Actually first, hello Max Meister and Maddie Morgs and Bionic Sheba and Blood Deuce and Reflected Tonight and Sword Co here, and the rest of you lurking. This is gonna be good. All right, Pete, you want to start? Should we just dive right into the spreadsheet?
Yeah, well, let's also talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
We got we have the spreadsheet here, and we're going to show you, for one thing, for context, just like the scale of the number of items that we have ungone through at the moment. And the answer is we have a lot of them that are ungone through. And we're going to go through and talk about some of those today. We're just going to be basically hopping in and going through people's items that they've already submitted to the bag. We didn't go ahead and put out like the call if you want to submit an item for brews, because there's just so many items that you guys have already made that we haven't gotten a chance to look at yet. So we're going to be wheeling through those and talking about like our process when deciding what does and does not go into the bag.
Yeah, and beyond that, we're not going to sugarcoat things today. We love you guys. We love your outpour of creativity. We appreciate that. But there are a lot of items that get submitted for this, and we're not going to sugarcoat how we go through and figure these things out. By the end of the show, keep in mind how many items we were able to create and actually like get to a finished process, and then think about how many items you submit. If you're submitting more than that many, think of how many hours you're asking Pete and I to put into it. And it's just like we can't do that. And so some of these items, we look at it, we say not going to be happening, and we're just strike them. And that's how we have to do things. So
which isn't to say like the item is not like not to say that it's like a bad item. There are a lot of items in here that I like and would even run in like a personal campaign I was running, but there's also like a lot of criteria that's very like, this is how we have to do it for D&D time.
And there's even a lot of items that would be great for D&D time, but in the form that they're submitted, it would just take so much effort to get into a good place.
For sure, that too.
We appreciate your creativity. We love that you guys are also active in, coming up with cool concepts, but please do kind of keep in mind our process here. And if you can, please don't take offense. We only have so much time in the day, and a lot of that time we're spending on making everything else about D&D time
yes
better.
Exactly. And there's one last thing to completely contradict all of what was just said. If you have item submissions, we want to try and like I also just would like to build items from a lot of different people, and a lot of the item submissions in the bag are from just like a few different people. So if you don't think you have much in the bag at the moment and you want to submit something, we'll be looking at it as we go through, and just holler out that you threw it on. We'll see it just pop up on the end of the list if you want to try your hand at it while we're going through.
Yeah, so starting out, boom. All right. This, and I'm going to zoom out for a minute. This is our spreadsheet. We have, this is how the items come to us immediately after you submit them. They come with the Twitch username, the name of the item that you submitted, any keywords that you checked off, the tier that you checked off, and the description as you created. Now we also have our revised description, and what this is the column where we edit these items and come up with a nice clean description for them. Things that are highlighted in yellow here, that means we've cleaned them up, we've done a submission, a revision, and they're ready for the bag.
Yep, they're about to move on over to the bag.
Exactly. And items that are otherwise not visible either have already been moved into the bag or have been struck off as not feasible for whatever reason. So there's a bunch of items that need to go in. Sword Co here, looking good. 4 right in the beginning that are all not bad. But, we scroll back down and we get to here. And so this is our last item that has been cleaned up and good here. We're going to probably start with this one, the spider backpack. But as we scroll all the way down, okay, there are a couple more that are all done. We scroll all the way down. We're still scrolling. We're still scrolling. All right, here we go. We got to the bottom. There are 147 items that still need to be gone through before we're caught up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of them. So how do we want to go about this, Pete? Do we just want to jump on one and start going through it and then maybe go to the next person who submitted an item?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd like to just go alternating by person.
Exactly.
And then we'll read them, and then if we decide we're going to do it, we have another doc where we'll go through and kind of do our revisions a bit more, and we'll drag it over. But we'll just decide for starters if we're going to do it.
Over to clean stuff up here. And let's see.
So do you want to just start right off with the spider pack device here from Max Meister?
Yeah, sure. And I'm seeing a lot of stuff in chat, and it's the kind of thing, guys, where it's just, temper yourselves. That's all we're asking. Sword, you're not getting the first bullet. We've already gone through the couple of ones up there, and they all made the pass. So good job.
You got some nice, you get the nice guys up there.
V Bunny, thank you very much for your subscription.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Thank you very much, V Bunny. Much appreciated.
All right. So let's start with the spider backpack.
Want me to read this one?
Yeah, sure.
Switch off.
And I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. So we can't see the whole thing as easily, but hopefully you guys can at least read the description here.
This is an item from Max Meister. It is the Spider Pack device, and the description of it is, this device can let you maneuver around like a spider and shoot special webs. This item goes on your back, similar to a backpack. As an action, you may cast Spider Climb on yourself at 2nd level. As an action, you may cast Web at 2nd level. This hex deck webbing is light blue in color, but has the same properties and effects. Both spells may be cast once. Once used, these spells on this item cannot be used again until the next dawn. All right.
Interesting item. I mean, not too bad. It can cast, 2 2nd level spells? Is that the idea?
Yeah, it gets 2 2nd level spell casts, and you get to cast each one once.
So I think balance-wise, I mean, fine. Pretty all right.
No
what
issues
this
there.
item seems like it really needs is it needs a phrasing pass. It needs a pass to take everything and write it in such a way that it works for the Big Bag Banana. I mean, do you think this is a good one to jump into? Because I think
I think that this has some. I think the mechanics of it are well balanced, so it's going to be easy to just change around the words in a way that fits a little bit better. And there's some well used language here. You got your nice this blank notation.
Mm-hmm.
You got your once used this properties until the next dawn. But yeah, I think this will be a quick one to go through. So let's.
And yeah, just to clarify, this checks off all of our markers. It's flavorful, its abilities match the flavor, which is really important. It has defined abilities, and it's not out of this world in terms of its power level.
Yep.
Both Spider Climb and Web are relatively infrequently utilized spells, and we really do like items that take those infrequently utilized spells and use them in more exciting creative ways. I see V-Bunny asking, did we go over your whips and stuff? I'm not certain if we have yet. We may have already taken a revision on those, so they might have already been revised. If not, what we're going to do is, once we go through Max's first item here, we're going to jump down to whoever the next user is who had submitted an item and go through one of theirs, and we're going to keep cycling through until we've gone through everyone's item. So let's jump over here. The Spider Pack device.
All right. So the first couple sentences here, I think there's a very quick revision that we would make, which is this device can let you maneuver around like a spider and shoot special webs. This item goes on your back, similar to a backpack. I would immediately just change device to, Jeremy's already doing it. Change device to
backpack.
And cut the second sentence there. We always try and keep the description as brisk as you can and still capture the flavor of it. And so have it, it's a backpack. It's going to let you be a spider and shoot cool webs.
Yeah, if you look at most items in the Dungeon Master's Guide, if the items have a picture associated with them, oftentimes they have no description of what they look like. If they don't have a picture, the description is usually no more than a sentence.
Very brisk.
And actually, we go a little overboard even with our descriptions sometimes. But yeah, we try to keep it as brisk. Is this an attunement item? If we go back to the original one, we didn't have attunement listed here, but I think in DnDTime we would consider this as an attunement item.
This would be an attunement item for certain.
Now,
it gives you a pretty significant buff. Well, the Spider Climb spell is being able to cast that on yourself basically every adventure. That has a pretty wide use case where it's going to negate a lot of, I would say, like obstacles and things like that, which is pretty impactful. If it was just the web spell, I would be a little bit less inclined to go full attunement with it. If it was just like, you get to cast one tangling web a day, I might even just let you have that for free. But I feel like the Spider Climb has so much utility in terms of being, in most use cases similar to flight. I think that is the spell that makes it worth attunement.
I agree. And I think that's something really important here. When we're considering attunement versus non-attunement, our main consideration is the ability listed niche enough to warrant it not having attunement? If the ability is almost always good and usable, either in combat or to overcome challenges that we put in before you, or overcome major challenges, that's when it becomes an attunement item. And both of these do that. Spider Climb, super good, and Web is actually pretty powerful stuff. So the next thing, while you wear this backpack, or while you wear this device, you may cast Spider Climb, and does Spider Climb get anything for casting it at a higher level? It does not, and does Web. Web also doesn't, so I don't think we have to specify at second level.
We can't see italics if we make them italics, right?
No, the italics wouldn't come.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You may cast Spider Climb, and
I would even probably phrase you may cast the Spider Climb and Web spells.
Yeah.
The Spider Climb and Web spells.
Spells once each per day. So actually, it's while you wear this device as an action.
I think you can even just say you may cast the Spider Climb and Web spells and end it there. And then I think you could just say, once you have cast the spell in this way, you may not cast that spell again until the next dawn.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a great idea. So once you have cast a spell, or
one of these
once
spells
you have cast, yeah. So notice we just cut out a lot of the hex tech color flavor to that. And there's a big reason we did that. Mainly because when we have an item like this, and a lot of item switches come in this way, players are really into what it looks like and the aesthetic of it as they picture it for their character. but we really want these items to be more nebulous. We want it to be, all right, if a more industrial themed character gets this item, they might see it as big mechanical claws. Whereas another character might see it as actual like spidery legs coming out of it. We don't really specify here. We just say it's a backpack-like device and it lets you maneuver around like a spider. So
for another person, it might just be magic. I could picture someone not liking the spider-leg aesthetic and just wanting to walk up a wall while they wear this backpack, which is cool too.
Yeah, I mean, or I was thinking ethereal spider legs, right? Or like something like that could be neat as well.
Yeah, that would also be
arcane
nice.
legs.
Yeah.
But yeah, really simple. And that is item number 1. It only took us 20 minutes to finish one item. not quite exactly.
We were a little bit late, but yeah. So that was one that's going to be pretty brisk because the only things that we needed to change were phrasing, and that's relatively easy for us to do. But you can see how long even just like adjusting phrasing, albeit the extra time, it's quicker when me and Jeremy are just doing it than talking about it while we do it. But still takes longer than you'd think.
What Pete and I would say here is that was an example of a good item submission.
Yeah,
that was an item submission that it hit all the boxes. It was simple for us to just clean up a little phrasing. We like that. That's the kind of thing easy for us to see. Now,
and I would like to put,
huge numbers. It's still hard, but
yeah, I would like to put a caveat on that some of these items, because I know we get a lot of these, because it's a very like for one thing, it's a type of item that I think we recommend even in our
we give a template for it.
Because this is like a very simple item to make, and it's a very functional design. But there are times where, like, if we're getting a ton of these, like, the item lets you cast a spell. If it's something that doesn't have, a ton of like nuance in the design, a lot of the times we'll like just take a percentage of those, because we can only put so many of those type of things in the bag, and where we're at on that. And I think right now the answer is we're pretty high. We have a lot of those types of things in the bag. Like, this wand lets you cast the spell one time, or, ad nauseum. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can do it. So sometimes an item like that, even though the design is good and it's really functional, we'll skip over it because we have a lot of that already. But in this case, I like this one.
The caveat on why this one's so good is because it themes in well with like the spider pack deal. Right, it works well together. You think of Doc Ock, or hell, someone might even see it's like a Spider-Man suit. You hit the thing, and the suit comes out, and you're Spider-Man. Whatever. Anyway, we'll move on because we're getting cut up in the weeds here.
Let's do the next person.
I'm gonna just mark this one as pink, just so we know it is somewhere. It is in that other document.
It's revised-ish.
Let's scroll down to
Sword of
your sword. Beautiful.
Would you like to read this one, Jeremy?
Yeah. Do we want to do the Bloodsucker, the Iron Monkey's Paw, or the original Buck?
If honestly, I think the original Buck taps into a whole nother category just from the sound of it, which is like these kind of, because I think we get a lot of, for one thing, Bartholomew, and two, like DnDTime lore-ish sort of items, which might be a good one to talk about.
I think so as well. So let's scroll over the original Buck from Minority Sword Co. here. The very first Bartholomew Buck ever created by the grumpy old wizard. First edition never bends, crumples, or wears. It's still in its original display case. Though it doesn't do anything, it still retains its original value. Having it gives you a sense of wealth and confidence. After all, who would question someone who managed to swindle the land's greatest miser of his first master? Soaring with confidence, you can have +2 to charisma and a +2 persuasion. All right. So there's a lot of flavor on this right off the bat. And that's our kind of first, like, red flag, maybe, so to say.
Yeah, I would agree.
There's a lot of text. I think we could cut it down and still keep the aesthetic there, though. So I don't think that's necessarily a huge issue. And I see Max saying, I already love this item. I get it. And then the second thing is, what does the item do? What does it feature? Well, it gives you +2 persuasion and +2 charisma because you're overly confident because you swindled Bartholomew, is I think the concept for it.
For starters, just to talk balance, I think it was submitted as a story tier item. Do you think, +2 to charisma rolls, so it's not +2 to charisma. It's +2 to charisma-based checks, I would assume that's what that means.
Yeah, so the first problem is we're not sure what the ability is.
Mhm.
That's the first. We're not entirely certain with the phrasing here what the effect of this item is. I think the intent is to increase your charisma score, which that's a very dangerous thing. That's something we really avoid at all costs. As D&D is a system of, there's mathematical reasons why you don't do that.
For sure. We'd be more inclined to do something along the lines of, say, the Gauntlet of Ogre Power, which sets to a flat number, than say just a flat, a +2 to charisma, because that's very dangerous.
Well, and then the second thing I was kind of a little unsure, it's the effect that it gives. To me, doesn't necessarily mesh super well with the concept of the item.
I agree. When I think of what the first Bartholomew buck would do, this is not what I would think. Just instinctually, when I think, oh, this is the first Bartholomew buck, this would be maybe a token. This sounds like a consumable to me that you would turn in for something, is what I hear with that. And so just the idea of holding it gives you more charisma doesn't blend for me, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I could see I agree. I completely agree in that regard. I was thinking, like, in terms of what we could do with this, I could see this as like a threatening Bartholomew thing. It's like, once per adventure, as an action while you hold this buck, you may threaten to destroy it, forcing Bartholomew to cast a spell for you, right?
Yeah, that seems like it could be a little bit more of a... that definitely seems like it could be in the flavor. But also, when there's a change that big, and I think we're getting to the same place, this is probably one that we would end up passing over.
Yep.
Because when the change is that big and we have to completely rework how the item functions, it's no longer the item that you submitted, really. If it's like you threaten Bartholomew and it's the original, his dollar, and he has to cast a spell, that's not like what you wanted it to do or the way you designed it to be.
Exactly. Plus, at this point, that was me spitballing a concept, how we would write that, how we would implement it, what we would want your ability to gain from it. There's so much to consider in that that's just a bit beyond the scope of what we were looking at.
And as one final note, with ones like this, at least for me personally, stuff like, the first Bartholomew buck, when it kind of touches in... Yeah, when it touches into lore, that's kind of for Bartholomew, that's kind of my boy. When it moves into lore in his story, I actually, I kind of like this lore. I like the idea that he keeps his first Bartholomew buck, but there are a lot of cases where I'll see something like that and not want to put it in the bag because I don't want to make what that assumes about the world canon in it. There are times where it kind of goes well and I think those items work, but there are also, I think, a lot where it carries too much weight. For example, I've definitely seen items in the world that are these are the ancient scrolls of the ultimate power that, they were forged the universe, which I don't think we have anything quite that extreme, but that kind of stuff, when it gets into the lore of the world, can be dangerous. And we'll have to pass over it a lot.
I completely agree. In the same way that we have our rules about character building, our items need to follow that. Items need to follow that rule too. They cannot create lore which restricts other people from creating their own stuff, and that some of the items fall under that. This one doesn't as much.
Yeah, no, this one's not bad.
Still it hits Pete in the feels, and I get that. But yeah, so I guess for this one, we are gonna hide you for now. First Bartholomew buck. What do we want to do? Do we want to jump to a different one of Sword's items? Because I really like the name for
Excaliburs. Yeah, why not?
Here's something awesome. The name of Excaliburs is the reason that of these 150 items that are left, the reason I went to this one is because the name was so good. And that's something also to really consider. All right.
All right. Let me read this one. So, Excaliburs. Forged from the leftover ore when the mythical Excalibur was created, these calipers give off a radiance that gives a +2 on any throw requiring precision and skill, such as fixing intricate machines like a clock or a music box, picking locks, disarming traps, or pulling leeches and ticks, or pulling and sewing stitches. There's my first thoughts on this is that one, I really like the flavor. I like the Excaliburs. There's a little bit of extra detail in there in terms of things like picking locks, disarming traps, or pulling leeches that can kind of be sewn up with, it's good at sleight of hand, or like it functions as thieves' tools or medicine checks.
Yeah, I'm getting that. But, and I think this is the main difference, I like that it has that extreme, that it has that
fine of a point.
Yeah, well, it has the vagueness to it, right? It's not saying just medicine checks. It's not saying just sleight of hand. It's saying if you can rules lawyer that that you can accomplish this thing with fine precision, you can use it, and I like that. I think that's cool.
You would.
I really do.
I get what you're saying for sure. And I think that
I like that open-endedness.
I think this is simple enough where we would put this one together.
Yeah, let's absolutely go ahead. So I'm going to just mark that with the little pink, so we know it's on that doc.
Calipers.
Submit it. Data, what are you doing? Oh, and actually, I just realized we never put a rarity on the spider pack device.
Those are more for like our own purposes, but it's kind of nice to like know where we balance this. I don't know if I would call this common. I would say this is probably an uncommon.
Well, I'm saying, let's talk about fable, myth, story instead of common, uncommon, rare in this case, right? Where would you put the spider pack device? Requires attunement. You get 2 second-level spells. One of them's a really cool utility spell. The other one's decent in combat.
It's on the border, I think, between story and fable. I could be pushed either way, up in the high stories or the low fables. Yeah, that's what I think about it.
I'd say low fable, and I also noticed we never specified a save DC for web.
Oh, that's a good point.
And this is a really important note. So what do we say? When you wear this device as an action, you may cast spider climb and web spells.
It'd be DC 13. Would be
using a spell save DC of. So that's a way to specify it. We could say your spell save DC, but then it requires attunement by a spellcaster. So we intentionally leave it just like that so that anyone can use this, whether you're a fighter or whatever.
Or we'd also, sometimes we'd even just do, in parentheses after the web spell, save DC 13.
To answer a question in chat, Bionic Sheba was asking, how often do you do these together versus doing them alone? We pretty much always do them alone.
Yeah. Very rare occasions we'll burn through them together. And a lot of the times when we used to do them together, it was to make sure that we were thinking in the same pages. But at this point, we both have a very strong idea about how we do it. So
now that the bag has been organized in like a good way, we can think about it a little better. Now, sometimes Pete might not agree where I put some of the items, like all of the bottled blessings, but sometimes it's how
I don't have a problem with the bottom blessings. I think you said that before. I said these leftovers. I don't know why I was saying the word leftovers. Calipers. Oh, because of the leftover that comes up in 2 seconds. And what I said about lore, now this seems like it's very touchy in terms of lore, which means like, oh, well, these are forged from Excaliburs. No, it's fine. That's a joke. And stuff like that's like a joke. We would have multiple things in the bag. If 2 people picked this aesthetics and were like, oh, it's from extra ore from Excalibur, we would put both of them in the bag and have them contradict each other, and it would be fine.
Yep, exactly. Because that's not DnDTime lore. That is like, we're referencing the real world lore in like a goofy, fun way. Also, hello, devils and dragons. Welcome.
Oh, hi there.
And V-Bunny is saying funny lore-based things like the Bartholomew footy pajamas. I think that's good. I don't think that's lore that is a problem for the same reason here. It's goofy. It's meant to be a joke, and it's very clearly a joke.
Yeah.
So Bartholomew's bunny slippers. That's not creating lore about Bartholomew. I guess it says he has bunny slippers, but like, that's not creating serious lore about Bartholomew, whereas the first buck does. Anyway, moving along. So these calipers, what do? We cleaned up some of the beginning text a little bit here. These calipers were forged from leftover ore when the mythical, lowercase mythical, Excalibur, or mythical blade Excalibur, was created. So I'm a kind of a stickler for grammar, so I wanted to make sure that was accurate there.
Using these calipers, I think the way we phrase it would be using these calipers to do these things would grant.
Well, I think we can just say when you would make an ability check to perform a task requiring intricate or precise detail, such as, we could give a couple of examples: fixing a clockwork device, picking a lock, or sewing a wound. You gain a +2 bonus to that check.
And I think for me personally, I really want to make the bonus a +3. And that's because Excalibur is definitely a +3 sword, because that is the legendary bonus.
I love that. And that's something that no one would ever know why we did that. But I also agree with that. This is a really big bonus. So let's talk about balance here.
Yes.
+3 bonus on anything that you can reasonably lawyer. Pretty good. You might need to, like, obviously this isn't going to work everywhere, but it could.
And depending on the ambition of the individual player, like, this bonus is going to be a lot or much less significant. Where I know a lot of people will try and
floating bonus, right?
Yeah.
It goes on top of everything else, which is huge.
But here's also the thing about these calipers, is the things that they allow you to do are going to tend to be more fun and less, combat oriented, going to, like, overcome challenges. Things like picking locks, that may seem like it's overcoming challenges, but one, it's rare that you have a locked door you need to pick, and two, we kind of want you to just overcome those challenges. Things like doors are just there for you to go in and find out what's behind them. And in the same regard,
whenever we mention doors in D&D time, it's because, hey, there's something behind that door, and if there's not, I'll make it up.
Precisely. And other things like fixing a clockwork device, that's going to be very, that's going to be very niche. It's going to be rare that you have to fix something and that plays a major role. And when it does, it's going to be fun to be like, oh, well, I have my cool Excaliburs. So in that regard, I would be inclined to say that this is a non-attunement item.
Yeah, definitely non-attunement, but what tier would we have it? Do we think it's niche enough to warrant it being a lower tier?
I'm on roughly the same page as last time, which is high story or low fable.
Interesting. I would definitely put it solidly in the middle of fable. Anything that gives a floating bonus that stacks on top of proficiency or expertise or anything like that. And I can see some players really lawyering this to the absolute max.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a per person basis on this one. So sure, I could get behind mid fable. You've swayed me on this one.
Data, you're being so good. You just wanted to get held.
That's
all right.
Don't we all in this life?
All right, now he wants to bite my hand.
Maybe not all on that one.
Ow!
And so yeah, this is an item that this is an item that we could do without too much work. I like the flavor of it. The name is funny. I'll tell you this: it's really easy to catch us with a good punny name.
Yeah, we will spend more time on an item if its name is really good, and this name is really good. Which is
probably there's a reason, is because we're very much of the opinion that getting something with a funny name in the bag is more fun than getting something with a less funny name that's slightly better. At least I'm of that opinion.
Max is asking, can we go meta and make Data the Cat and try him? Absolutely not. Are you kidding me? No way. That is far, far too personal, Max. No way. I would throw that item out in a moment. This is my cat. I'm not gonna go any chance that he dies in your stupid adventures. Or in my stupid adventures. Not happening. Not putting him in someone chaotic's hands. He would be an awesome item. He'd actually probably just bite you and take 1d4 bludgeoning damage or piercing damage and then run off, and that's the whole adventure. Anyway, let's jump on to our next item.
All right. The next one is from Reflected 10.8. It is Mizuchi, and looking at it here, I think this touches on another classic item problem that I'm just seeing in my first look over here. So, Jeremy, would you like to read this one? I think this would be a good one to talk about.
Yeah. So this is the item is Mizuchi the Water Snake. This large katana looks simple with a blade of almost black blue. Okay, not too bad. I almost want a little more description than that because it's almost too simple, but okay. This item is a +3 longsword. While attuned, you gain a swim speed of 60. You are able to breathe water, and you may walk across water as though it were solid. Additionally, you are able to cause water to flow as the blade flows, gaining the following environmental bonus. In arid hot locations with little sand, sword gains no bonus. In temperate locations with average water, the reach of the sword increases to 10 feet and deals an additional 1d4 cold damage. In humid, coastal, or lush locations, the reach extends to 15 feet and deals an additional 2d4 cold damage. In oceanic locations, including large lakes, the sword seems to almost take on a form of a giant serpent of water, gaining a range of 30 feet and dealing 46 cold damage on hit, granting you 1 additional attack. All right.
All right. Do you want to go first, or would you like me to?
So I got 2 comments in the chat I just want to immediately read. From Tonight,
Please.
he would be too OP. He would. And from Max Meister, God, this is complex the hell? Yeah.
It's very complex. I think looking at it, if I could just give a rough idea of what I would want for this blade to work, but I think this is one that I would look at it and think, man, these are a lot of little changes that we'd have to make this work, and we would probably move over it. There's some, language that we need to be cleaned up and some formatting things. For example, there's the cold damage, which uses a D4 and then switches to a different dice, which is just kind of a faux pas. I would just make it all either a D6 or a D4. There's the location-based stuff. That's a little bit too complicated in terms of the detail. And again, I think that's the less fun version of rules lawyering. I think rules lawyering for Excaliburs is fun because it's goofy and it's not going to be big, but rules lawyering for what type of environment you're in, because it's going to be a huge impact on how you fight in combat, would probably get a little bit frustrating for a player if it's ruled against them in cases. I might, if I wanted to do that environmental thing, rule it down very quickly and just basically make it in a feast or famine. If you're in a very harsh, arid environment, the blade loses magical properties. Otherwise, it's this, and maybe an extra buff if you're on the ocean or underwater.
Well, and I think that's a great way to handle this, is just we turn it into a very simple feature, which is while you are engaging in underwater combat, because there's a distinctive and specific description to what underwater combat is. That is a rules category in 5th edition D&D. And so utilizing that, I think, is a good idea.
Agreed. So with stuff like this, if it's a complicated item, we become, especially with powerful items like this, because this is, as it stands, would probably be considered a legendary item, or if not a very high myth one.
It's because of the +3 combined with everything else. I mean, anything that has an extra 4d6 cold and gives additional attacks is insane.
We get way more strict with stuff like this. And so if you submit a legendary item and it's not right on perfect point and we can just kind of ship it and cut it with maybe 1 or 2 minor changes, we're probably going to move over it.
Yeah.
It's cool. I really like the concept. It's righteous.
And exactly, that's kind of the point. Sometimes you'll get us with a righteous, because this one isn't goofy. It's Mizuchi the Water Snake, but it's a weapon that has a title that seems pretty sick. And
I like it.
That cool factor also really plays us over. Honestly, this is an item I probably wouldn't skip. I would probably tone it way down. I'd probably turn it into a +2 sword that gave you the swimming stuff and only gained a bonus in underwater combat. Maybe it would lose magical properties in deserts or something.
Yeah.
And I think I'd use extreme weather as a category for that. Anywho,
it's close.
That being said, sure. I think for now we're probably going to jump past.
Yeah, just to keep going. So, and in that regard, let's keep going on to another one of Lance's.
What, the Ring of Requipping?
Why not?
All right. This seems to shift in color. This seems to shift in color with the wearer's mood. While attuned to this ring, you may spend 1 minute focusing on it, and you may change your item loadout. Hello. Okay. This fits under another category of items, which are meta items to how DnDTime works. Right? This is an item that specifically interacts with the mechanics of of a tuning item, right? How do you feel about those, Pete, usually?
It's dangerous. It's kind of a dangerous path. Items like this that have that broad use case, a lot of the times I'd be afraid of this item just because I can't fully wrap my head around what the implications of that might be. And then some player comes in and realizes that, oh, well, by being able to focus that, I can activate this buff on this item, switch it out and require it, but I still have the buff. And then I have like I can picture this item being broken in ways that were never foreseen when it was created. Certainly not the intended use case, but might be a little bit frustrating when they actually come out and play.
Yeah. Where this works out well, and I think what's interesting about this item is it does what we set out to accomplish with our charm. But our charms have caveats all over them to deal with those unforeseen circumstances. So this is another item that I think we would simply hide and perhaps come back to another day.
And also, just as one more side note, I'm also less partial to anime references because requipping is an anime thing from the show Fairy Tail, from a character who has the ability to requip their gear, which I assume is what that was a reference to. Which I like the flavor of that character, but I just tend to shy away from this.
Yeah, and actually, that's what we see with this next item, change. These rings of material, color, and shape are always in flux, never settling on the same form. As a bonus action, you may change your items and change any items that require attunement. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Which maybe this was meant to be a different take on it, but it has, for the same reasons. It's the reason we step past it.
All right.
The next...
and that's those are reflected tonight. So I want to see if we can grab another new person.
Yeah, because we just went through a couple of them. So we're scrolling down. There's a lot of Lance and Max items.
Yeah, Lance and Max are the heroes of the bag in many ways.
Frog, the forgotten one. The Eye of Fumble.
Mind if I take it away on this one?
Absolutely. And is Frog in the chat? I thought I saw him.
I think I saw Frog earlier. I don't know.
I must not have, because I'm not seeing him if I'm trying to add him. But Frog, here's your Eye of Fumble more.
I swear I saw him earlier. The Eye of Fumblemore. This strange icosahedron drool appears to resemble a large eye with an eerie, ominous air. It was given its name after a gnomish god of unluck, Thelian Fumblemore. Once per battle, you may use your reaction to speak the command word to reduce an enemy's attack roll by 1d20. If this would reduce the score to under 2, the enemy takes damage equal to half the damage of the attack. All right. Jeremy, do you want to go first, or would you like me to?
Yeah, you can take it.
All right. I like the flavor of it. I think I'm generally okay, and again, to get back into the lore category, when someone makes up their own little lore for their item, I'm completely cool with that.
Totally cool.
Like, yeah, gnomish god. It's when it steps into other lore. So, like, he made up this cool little god of unluck, Thelian Fumblemore, which is what this is based on. It's cute, Dumbledore reference, which I'm cool with. And
important note here. I want to just caveat on that. We would absolutely always change it to a gnomish god of unluck. But
yes, correct. Good pick there.
But aesthetically, I think that's even an appropriate amount of flavor.
Yep. You can do that's about the. I would say that's the outside edge. You don't want to go any more than that.
Yeah.
It's a little on the high side, but it's fine as it is.
And it's well phrased too. We don't have to do that.
Yeah, that's
like
just
we don't have to do anything to this, which is very important from our perspective. In terms, if we see something that is written that neatly and concisely, that's going in the bag usually, unless.
Where this runs into some troubles is in this ability, which is a little bit unwieldy in terms of the mechanics aren't really, for one thing, the idea of once per battle isn't really a 5th edition mechanic. That's more of a 4e thing. In terms of encounter powers is what I think this is supposed to be kind of modeled after.
Yep.
But we'd shy away from mechanics that aren't really intended for the system. Additionally, it has a really high level of variance by using the 1d20, and is frankly, that's pretty powerful in terms of that effect. This would, I mean, absolutely be an attunement item. It's not so powerful that it would kind of break a game, but it would be powerful enough that it would probably be higher than I think you want this to be.
Yeah, and I think I think this is an item that I'd probably keep. Though I might change some things up a little. So the first thing I want to look at, right, is that 1d20. What does that compare to? Because that immediately, I think of a specific feature. I think of, I believe it's cutting word.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is a bard feature. And I think that gets up to a d10 at its absolute best.
I believe you're right. It might be a d12, but something like
and
that.
So the question here is, next it goes d6, d8, d10, I think. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I go to d12. Yeah. The point is, where do we want to put this? And this is the big thing, this ending part. Because this is very easy to do. Someone rolls bad, you can do this every time.
Yep.
And so if we're going to keep this last part about dealing an extra dealing the damage if you can get their roll below 2, this is going to be an attunement item. It's probably going to be a high fable attunement item. And that is challenging.
A single use kind of variance item, and there are a lot of items in there that play around with changing dice rolls and the concept of luck, which is a very potent, just because of the nature of the game, it's a really potent concept that a lot of people just resonate with. So
yeah, and you're gonna get this every fight is the key.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen every fight.
For one thing, I would probably take out the once per battle and make it a once per day.
Yeah, so let's put this item in the.
Yeah, let's build it. I think this is what I would build. Yeah.
So I'm gonna paste it in here, hopefully correctly. And it's
I'll get the name. I'll get the name.
And we're gonna we'll come to that. So this strange isocahedron, I think it's icosahedral, so one change. Jewel, yeah, appears to be a large eye with the very ominous air. All right, cool. So we've got the flavors done. And then, yeah, we can say instead of once per battle, once per day. When an attack within 60 feet of you, when an attack is made within 60 feet of you, does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
You can use your reaction to. I'm going to get rid of speak the command word. I'm not sure we need that text in there. Again, that comes into what we were talking about before with how everyone uses this item. Someone might hold it out and, a beam might come out of it. Someone might speak a command word and just a dull, ominous bell of failure or something. The trombones play.
I was just thinking of sad trombone. And there are times that speak the command word is appropriate if it's just an activation requirement for things like magic carpets. It's just like now rise because it wanted to start functioning. But
generally, command words are for features that start and then continue to go
persist.
On. Yeah. Anyway, so reduce an enemy's attack roll by 1d20. This is potent, but where do we want to put this item? This is actually an interesting thing, which is Pete and I will decide what this is, whether it's a D20 or whatever, based on pretty much where we want this to go in the bag. Yes. We could keep it as a D20. The problem with D20 is it's so much variance, especially to put on a higher level item.
I think my instinct was I would like to make it a D8. I would also be swayed into a D10, but I think a D8 works well for it. Because you get those lower end ones, but then there's like a nice
where
kind of
chunk of reach. Where would you put it as a D8?
I'd put it as a Fable tier item.
See, yeah. It's just weird because there's so much variance on the D20 where it could just do nothing.
But I mean,
chat saying they like a D10. I mean, I could be swayed to a D10. I think D20 is way too much variance. In which case it's no longer a icosahedral, it's now a decahedral.
Good catch there.
But, and I think rather than if it would reduce it to under 2, if it reduced the attack roll to 1, to exactly 1, the enemy, yeah. I like this a lot better. You're not guaranteed this last part.
See, I feel like okay. I thought you were saying, yeah, I get you.
So I think And I think if this effect, I like this a lot more. I think it's
So you're saying the second effect only activates if you
if
you hit one.
Well, and I think because of that, we can turn this into a much lower level item.
Yeah, I definitely agree. If it's not guaranteed to do that extra half damage, then it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would put this as like a high story tier item. It's no attunement. It's you get one use of this Valor Bard specific, incredibly potent feature, and it has a chance to do something really good with it. This is I think, a high story tier item.
Yeah, I agree with that change. It absolutely is. It was Fable with the half damage basically guaranteed by just fishing for low attacks, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's kind of, I think this, even though it's less powerful, using the exactly one is more flavorful.
Yeah, it's also, I think, more fun in the sense that when it, where the phrasing was set up the other way, it had an optimal use case, which was to wait for them to get a bad attack and then roll it and try and fish it below. But if you don't get below, then you're going to feel kind of bad. In this case, the variance on it, and it's so rare that you get that exact fumble, just like a fumble is, you're going to be also using it in situations where I just want to reduce the attack roll and not get hit, which is probably the intent.
Chad's making a good point here. Bionic, she was saying, any creature with a plus 11 or higher to their attack roll would never be affected by them. That's a very interesting point. Additionally, I'm seeing another issue, whereas any ally with higher than, let's say they have a 12 armor class, you can never use this item as it is now that we've changed it to help that ally and still get a chance at fumbling them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely a bit niche in that regard. I thought of the fumble more as like,
I don't think it should be a tactical choice though. Of I'm going to use this on a creature that's already missed to hope I get the
for fun. Yeah, you're right. That's not fun.
So I think actually we bump it back up to the D20 and we just increase the tier. I mean, it kind of is a bummer, but I think that's okay.
I would even be in. I don't know. I guess it loses some of the flavor of it. But I would be more inclined to be like, if it rolls a 1 or if it rolls like a 10 on the D10, then it becomes that. Which I don't know if it hits the exact note that he wanted.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I dislike the D20, and I would probably spend more time on this, but in the interest of moving forward, sure.
I mean, Blood's saying maybe 2D10s. 2D10s are just, I don't know.
Yeah,
we can make them the eyes of Fumble more, but it's just like...
No, I'm with you on that. Yeah, I feel like it has to be one dice, but... Yeah, I mean, like I said, I would take more time and think about this. And these are also the kind of like rabbit holes that we can fall into when we're building these, where something that seems like it's going to be really easy to just do turns out like this, where there's a little bit more intricacy than initially seemed.
Yeah, and these are the kind of things where we can get an item to this point and then it stalls and never gets done. Because it just hits a point where how can we accomplish what you set out to do? Because this item has a very, very specific aesthetic and flavor it wants to go for. And I respect the hell out of that, and I really do dig it, and I don't want to violate that concept.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying I was worried to do. If like we changed it for in a way that would work, it just doesn't work.
That being said, this is now a high Fable item at that D20.
Very, very good, very good.
It is not a high story, it is a high Fable. So I think that's just where we're at. And there are going to be some people that if they pull this item are not going to be super stoked about it. But it's not attunement. And I know there are a lot of people that will want it too. So it'll be a good, you can at least trade it now that we have that.
I would have called this an attunement item personally.
Really? I would not call it attunement once.
Just a flat dodge.
Once for a chance is what
I mean, a D20 is... and a lot of the time also, it's like, it's not really
once
a chance.
For a chance. I don't know if I'd call
yeah.
it too.
Again, these are things that we will always have differences in opinion on these stuff.
And here's where the difference comes in. So we're having a difference of opinion. I was saying high fable without attunement. Pete was saying high fable with attunement. It's now low myth without attunement. Right? Here's the thing, right? This is where some of the bartering comes back. That's it's tough.
Yep. And this is also, I think I was just going to say, this is also why we tend to make items alone, because it's easier for one person to just kind of like, all right, this is what I think.
Oh, and that's the thing. We'll make the item alone, and then the other person will put it in the bag, and we'll give it its number and its location in the bag.
Indeed.
So I might have a concept that's like, yeah, I think this is like this. I think this is a high fable item without attunement, and he might see that and say like, 700. You know,
there's been a lot of those for sure,
and that's
I think
fine.
Yeah, it's just how we do things.
Exactly. It's our checks and balance there, so we don't go too crazy. That being said,
yeah,
we are right around break time. Do we want to take a quick break, or I could use to get some more water because I'm almost gone.
Absolutely, let's take a break.
Yeah, we'll be back in 5 minutes, I think, and we'll make some more items. See you guys in a minute.
See you soon.
All right, we're back. All
Hi.
right. Sorry, guys. I know I was a little slow. I needed to get my delicious tea, which I don't spilled on my face.
And while Jeremy was getting that tea, I feel like I might have threaded the needle on this guy. And I have a thought that is non-conventional. On the Eye of Fumblemore, just as a quick side note, since we were fumbling a bit about on it for a while there. And I think we can do it a D10 if we have it reduce the dice roll. And if it reduces the dice roll to exactly 1, then it makes the effect happen. That way they can have a big bonus to hit, and it can still get them if they rolled a 10. Additionally,
That's
you can...
Interesting.
Yeah, additionally, if it was like a plus 10 bonus, or like if that plus 11 bonus thing doesn't affect it, because it's reducing the roll to a 1, which is what the crit fail is the roll and not the bonus anyway. And then you can still use it on high things if they load roll with a high bonus, rolled low with a high bonus, and still maybe get both effects on a high attack.
Okay, I like this a lot. If this effect would reduce the attack roll of the attack without accounting for attack modifiers to exactly 1. There we go. This works great. I like that, Pete. That is a very good... And sometimes it just takes a couple minutes to figure that out.
Yeah, and now it works both ways. We get to have it both ways.
The issue with it is like...
It's a little convoluted.
It's weird. It requires some math, but I think this works.
Yeah, I think
I think we can now change this to like... What do you think?
I don't know.
Mid-fable?
Yeah. That's where I was always dreaming of putting this
Even
thing.
without the attunement? You're cool with that?
Oh, yeah. I'd put it in high fable without attunement, but that's just a gripe and a personal preference.
Yeah, it's just the way I see it, right? The average roll in the D10 is a 5.
Yeah.
5 is the shield spell. 1 cast of the shield spell that, like, if you get really lucky, does some damage.
Yeah, it's
without attunement. That's not.
The attunement feels less necessary to me without the D20.
And yeah, right. V-Bunny's making a great point. It depends on how much damage they deal. That's kind of like an extra flavor thing. Like when we have an item that does something on a crit, we're not really accounting for that too much when we're talking about the balance of that item. And that's kind of how this works, because there's a 1 in 10 chance this works ever, like at best, right? The best odds you can give it are 1 in 10 if you wait for the right attack. So anyway, let's keep moving.
Shall we go on next? What was our next item? Where were we on that one?
Let's see. We got some items by Max, but I know V-Bunny's in the chat. We haven't done any of Bunny's yet.
So yeah, let's do that.
I'm just scrolling down to find them. There's a lot of items to scroll through. And then we can work our way back up.
Here we are. I see a few here. There's the Antizon head box and then the whips, though. And I feel like V-Bunny was particularly excited about the whips. So want to do one of those?
Yeah. V-Bunny, do you have a preference on which whip we look at? Or, like, I don't know, the ship whip, snip whip, the flip whip, the trip whip? I kind of like the trip whip.
The trip whip's a good name. So I'm down
That's
on...
the best name.
I also like the snip whip, but... Or no, I'm sorry,
the
not
ship
the
whip seems pretty good, too.
The flip whip
Flips
is good.
into a boat? Uh-oh. Pretty good. Let's go to the ship whip. I want to go to the ship whip, Pete. We're doing the ship whip.
I know, it made me laugh that much because I didn't know what it was going to be, but the fact that it folds into a boat is wild to me. So I want to talk about the ship whip.
All right. You want me to read it, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
This +1 whip deals 1d6 damage instead of the ordinary 1d4 damage. Additionally, as an action on your turn, you can fold the whip into a boat that can carry up to 6 medium creatures. All right. Interesting.
It cracks me up. Like, a lot of times, if I laugh this much at an item, it means I'm going to go after my wife for it, because I just am, because it made me laugh, and I'm sure it'll make other people laugh too. Just the idea of it being a regular whip, and then somehow it folds into the boat. There's just the disconnect there that I love. because it's because it's the ship whip. It just works.
Yeah, well, exactly. So here's my kind of take on this personally. Mechanically, I've got a huge problem with it, and that's making a 1d6 whip. I hate that. A whip is an item that has a specified attack damage. It's got a damage roll to it. I don't like screwing around with that stuff. That's my personal take on it.
I'm inclined to agree.
I think what I'd prefer is just make it a +2 whip that accomplishes the same effective thing. It's a little better.
It's a little bit better,
and it's just way simpler, you know.
If you want to put extra damage on it in terms of dice, you could do like it does an extra cold damage, or it does an extra dice of damage. If you want to do that kind of thing,
let's put it into.
I think this is one that we could build for sure. It's so simple. Ideas that are just like really brisk like this.
Well, and beyond that, it's simple and it leaves room for Pete and I to do some stuff with it too, without making us feel like we have to. If that makes sense.
So we would. One thing I will say about this item is I would like a little bit more flavor on it rather than just the raw thing.
Yeah, and I think the way I do this, right, is this simple rope whip creaks like the rigging of sails when you swing it, or when you whip it. A nice little flavor to it, kind of ties it into boats.
+1, you don't use that notation. It's just a different phrasing. There's some stuff that will be cleaned up.
I'm going to go actually just pull that out of our common language here.
You gain
I
got it.
Thank you.
Bonus to that's just how you phrase it.
We can get rid of that extra damage thing because I don't think that's super critical. And additionally, we can just say, additionally, once per day. I'm going to use once per day here. And you can do it once per day, or you can say once you do this, you can't do it again until the next dawn. There's a lot of ways you can phrase it. I think once per day is fine personally. Seem all right to you, Pete?
It's brisk. I always do the next dawn notation just because it's the
it's a correct one.
The one.
Yeah. So once per day as an action, we don't have to say on your turn because you can only do actions on your turn. You can unfold.
There we go.
The whip into a boat that can carry up to 6 medium creatures. And I think rather than saying a boat that can carry up to 6 medium creatures, we can just take the stats of a ship. We can say
from the new book.
Actually, it's in the Dungeon Master's Guide.
There's the folding boat. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Well, not just the folding boat. Well, wait, there is the folding boat. The folding boat's a little more complicated than I was going to say, though. I was going to say we can just say it uses the stats of a rowboat.
Oh, yeah, sounds good.
Or something. Me. Now, a rowboat is only 3 passengers.
But I feel like that's okay.
I think we do need, I think, to specify that, like, I don't know. Like, we're going to use a sailing ship that's outrageously huge.
And again, like, this is a question of contention. I would almost be okay with, like, even like V Bunny's notation doesn't bother me that much because, like, if this was an item that I wanted to like use in a long-term campaign and kind
keel
of
boat.
have it,
That's it.
Keel boat. That sounds good to me. Or like I was submitting for like, you know, an Unearthed Arcana thing, or like trying to like look cool with it, I would do that. But I feel like for this, I almost like I know that what he means. It's a boat. It can carry up to 6 people in it.
Yeah, my main purpose is for the purpose of like armor class and hit points.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and I think we just say into a.
I think a keel boat works.
Sure. That's a 60-foot long boat.
Holy shit.
Maybe we just say a rowboat that can carry 6 medium creatures. And that way we know to use the stats of a rowboat.
I think that's a great idea. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And
things can get really funky with just very little anything. Little complexity. So where are we going to put this, right?
Well,
do you want to do +1 or +2?
I think +1's fine.
Okay. +1 whip. You can flip into a boat.
Do we want to also put a caveat on it that you can unboat it and have the whip again?
Oh.
Um,
Yeah.
can.
You're right. It should be the word 6 medium creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can.
Over the course of 10 minutes, you can fold this boat back into a done.
Okay, great.
Now, what do we want to call this? Do we want to call? I mean, +1 whip. Whip is a non-optimal weapon, generally speaking, but it does have a reach component to it, which is powerful. You can fold this boat back into a whip. I don't think we have to specify. I think it's fine. I don't think we have to go into that minutia. It has to be empty. It's 10 minutes. They got 10 minutes to get out of it. It's a rowboat. So anyway, +1 whip. I mean, that would be a story tier item, right? We're fine with that.
Yeah.
Conjuring a boat. Now here's a huge problem. In the bag currently, we have a we have all of the regular items that are in the Dungeon Master's Guide, including the Qual's Feather token, which are consumable items that create boats. So where do we put this is the next question. Because the Qual's Feather token, it can create a swan boat, which is a huge boat, actually, very large, 50 feet long, 20 feet wide.
I mean, it's above the consumable chunk.
Yeah, and that's a rare item. Now, obviously, it's going to go above consumables because our consumables for rare items are below the normal items.
Is the boat that you create temporary, out of curiosity?
Yeah, 24 hours.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's just a certain, even though technically Qual's Feather token, I don't think Qual's Feather token is as rare in my own personal games.
As rare, yeah.
As D&D makes it, and I think it's okay that this is a little better than that, even though that's how Qual's Feather token is listed.
What I would like is I would like to give this a +2 and call this a low myth item.
I can party on that. I'd also want to make this probably an attunement item.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Infinite boats. I would say so.
Yeah, it's a boat. The big boat.
And generally speaking, if you're going to give a +X weapon the ability
anything
to create
other
a boat,
than that. Yeah, basically anything other than +X on a weapon, if it has that on it too, usually bumps it into attunement.
Yeah, and V-Bunny, you say we fixed it. All we really did was give it a little more thought as to where we would want to put it. Because this item, we could have put this in story tier as a +0 item. +0 whip requires attunement. It does this. It's just a magic whip that can summon a boat. Or we could have +2 and call it a low myth item. You know, we can put this in a lot of different circumstances. It's just a matter of where we want it. But otherwise, it's pretty solid. And it's funny. The ship whip. Which we just like that kind of stuff. Whips are broken on Kensei monks, but no one ever plays Kensei monks, so it's nothing to worry about. And Blood, that's an interesting point. I'm okay with this item being really good on one kind of character.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a subclass to a class. If it's like all rogues, that's a different story.
Yeah, depending on the nicheness of it and how deep that goes, and whether or not you're like building yourself in a particular way to make that item work well for you, you know.
Yeah. Now, if the item only works on that niche, that's a huge problem. I don't think this does. A +2 whip is a solid item. It's pretty good. Like most characters that are martial characters will use this if they don't have a stronger plus item.
Yeah.
And even then, with the reach, that's still really good. Anyway, moving on.
Excellent offhand. Better than a dagger for sure. Whips are light. Whips are light, right?
I don't know if they are.
Finesse, reach.
I don't think whips are light.
I remember someone used to do.
They're finesse and reach, but I don't think they're light.
Yeah, no, they're not. Someone used to dual wield whips in DnDTime.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
They couldn't have, and so in my brain, it's always been light, but they just were cheating by accident, probably.
Yeah, so let's jump on. Next thing. Huzoop. Oh, I'm on the item, the common language. All right. So that is the ship. And just to clarify, all the items we don't get to here, we're going to get to them eventually. It just will take some time because there's a lot of them. I see Farful in the chat. Farful is our hero when it comes to these items, because when we were really hit with a serious backlog and Pete and I couldn't keep up, Farful was one of those or Crowley, as you might know him, helped us to kind of clean up some of these.
Indeed. So if you ever have questions about items, I won't put that on here. Never mind. I take it back.
Yeah, if you have questions about items, ask Pete, not Crowley.
Yeah.
Don't bother him about that.
I was just about to say that, and then I decided not to.
So let's see. We got Lance, Frog, and Blood. We haven't done something for Blood yet. And I think Blood mentioned that they just submitted this. I just submitted a single item. If you take a look at it sometime tonight, should be pretty easy for you guys to go over. It's a short item concept.
All right.
Here we are. And after that, we're going to cycle back through and start going. And I think we'll take a poll to see who's here. So Max, Lance, Bunny, if you guys could just sound off in chat and let us know you're here so that we know who to go back to first when we're cycling.
Indeed. All right. In that case, let's look at The Underdog's Blade by Blood Deuce. Thank you very much. Here we have this mildly rusted short sword is said to have been famously wielded by an ever-reliable halfling fighter. Despite the rust, it gleams like new in times of great turmoil. When you make a weapon attack with this weapon at disadvantage and hit, the short sword does an extra 3d6 piercing damage. Additionally, once per day, when you make an attack roll with this weapon, you can gain a +10 bonus to that roll. If you use this feature while attacking at disadvantage, both rolls gain the bonus.
Really interesting item here. First, I just want to say, as written, well written.
Perfectly done.
This could probably go into the bag as it is. Mm-hmm. Pete would probably go and change once per day to a different thing, but I'm fine with it just the way.
Yeah, I would change the once per day. It's my taste and preference, and if you do that, I'll appreciate it. If you just use the next on notation.
I don't give a damn. And that's weird because usually I give a damn.
Yeah, I'm always going through and just next donning everything.
Flavor-wise, awesome.
Yep.
I really like the aesthetic of it. It tells a little story without going into a ton of detail. And I think that is Farfel also changes the once per days. Anyway, I think it gives enough detail about the story behind it without getting into the nitty-gritty in the weeds of it. I like that. Let's talk about balance.
When you make an attack and hit with disadvantage, I think like balance-wise, my initial thought is there's basically nothing wrong with it in terms of balance. It's just a question of like how we would rate this versus the effect I think works and could be on a weapon.
But let's talk about it, right? Because I think there are some obvious comparisons. Namely is Flame Tongue. Flame Tongue is an incredibly powerful feature. It's only a rare item in the Dungeon Master's Guide. However, it's probably one of the most powerful features in the game. And what it does is it gives you an extra 2d6 points of fire damage on hit with the weapon. +0 weapon, and that's what it does. In DnDTime, I think we treat that as like a mid-myth item.
Yeah. Flame Tongue is better than it is rated in the Dungeon Master's Guide, 100%.
Now, looking at this is like a Flame Tongue. And I see there are some things with it. So obviously, for at first glance, 3d6 piercing damage, that's better than Flame Tongue. You're going from 2d6 to 3d6.
Mm-hmm.
But you use it less frequently because it's only at disadvantage.
Yeah, you have to hit on an attack that you have disadvantage on, which in theory is
less and here's the nuance of it. I blindfold myself and run into the fray, right? You're going to get people who are like, I jump on the ground and swing at them from prone. I'm serious. That's going to happen.
Oh, no, for sure.
Especially if they find out an enemy has a relatively low armor class. They're going to go for it. And they're probably going to get rewarded with it. So there's something to consider here that a lot of this can be offset if a player goes crazy with.
Yeah, it's a question of just like it's great weapon mastery in that regard, where you can take a penalty to gain a bonus to damage.
Yeah, and so the last thing is +10 to the attack roll. How do we feel about that?
It's a little heavy-handed, I would say, in terms of the bonus. And I don't know if it I don't know if it feels like it needs it on there. I feel like the disadvantage on hit already gets the flavor across of yeah, it's rusty, but it's good in bad situations with the disadvantage thing.
And it's a matter of how strong do we want it to be? Because the +10, it fits in flavor-wise, but it's not necessary. And I think that's where we're hitting here. How strong do we want to put this?
If you use this feature while attacking at disadvantage, both rolls gain the bonus. I think you don't need that text. I think that would be assumed just in the first phrase.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Where would I put this?
So I think with the +10, this is a high myth, maybe low legend item.
I would have said probably a firm myth, but
I would put this at high myth with a +10 and the 3. And it's not because of how good it is, but because how good it could is the problem.
How good it what?
It's not how good it is. It's how good it could be if players do some silliness.
You know what I mean? It's just the question.
It's a short sword instead of a long sword, so that matters, and it doesn't have a +to hit. So, okay,
yeah, I don't know. I feel myth is.
I'm satisfied with myth here.
Yeah, I put attunement on it, obviously.
Oh yeah. So I think we're cool here, and this is an item that maybe I was overvaluing a little bit. I know there are some of you who would be like, yes, I leap toward them and dive onto the ground. I know there are some of you. And God willing, you miss all those attacks. But anyway, do we need to put that in here, Pete?
I'm just gonna. Oh wait.
But otherwise, yeah, this is pretty much set. Thank you, Blood Deuce.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much.
And that is a solid myth item.
I was changing it in the document like a goon.
Yeah, Pete.
Classic.
Goon. You should actually. Well, it's fine. Usually, what would happen in these cases is we would undo those changes just so that we have a reference of the original submission. And actually, Pete just did that.
Yeah.
So,
I like the name, the Underdog's Blade. I don't think we commented on that, but
it's cool it's excellent. Yeah.
Very good. Let us zip back up all the way to the top, I suppose.
And actually, one last thing of the Underdog's Blade. I think this tells a really nice story and a serious story. And I like that. I definitely could see other people coming up with an item like this that would try and play onto the dog thing instead of halfling fighter. It's a dog folk fighter, and that's why it's the Underdog's. And it's just I like that it kept that serious tone to it. So I just want to put that out there. Serious stuff that tells a good story is super important.
Agreed. We like to have a mix in the bag. We got jokes, but we also have ones that we think are genuinely just cool items.
So looks like V Bunny and Reflected 10-8 have both cheered out in the chat. I think let's do a Reflected 10-8, and then we can jump on to one of Bunny's. And I think Bunny had a choice for there, but we'll come to that one in just a minute.
Certainly. Just as a side note, she was worried about the sneak attack effects on the short sword on the road. You actually, if you have disadvantage on attack, you can't get sneak attack ever. Anyway.
And Max is chimed in too, so we'll jump on to Max after. Max, don't worry. We've got enough time. We'll hit them all.
Yeah, we'll get all, yeah. So you were just saying we're going to do one of Reflected's, right? He's had a request. Let's see if we can...
Hero's Blade or Ankle?
Hero's Blade. I have it right here. The Hero's...
Just keep going. I'll find it.
I lost it when I undid my thing. All right, the Hero's Blade, a pure silver blade set in a pure gold hilt, gleaming with pure pale blue light. This longsword grants a +3 bonus to attack and damage rolls. Additionally, while attuned to this sword, you are unshakable and stand resolute, granting you immunity to the frightened condition and all breath attacks. All right.
All right. Interesting.
I like the purity of it. The pure silver, the pure gold, and the pure pale blue light.
It's interesting because I also like it. I also like that. I would probably cut the first pure out of silver. I'd say this silver blade is set in a pure gold hilt, which gleams with the purest pale blue light.
And I think that we can probably make this, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So let's do it.
This is nowhere near as complicated as the last one, and this is absolutely a doable item.
Absolutely.
So let's roll it.
The hero's blade. So we're gonna start off by doing this first. Always remember this first. So this pure, or you want to get rid of the first pure? I kind of like the first pure.
All right, instead of all right.
Keep it for me.
We keep purest for the last because I like the pure
Right.
purest.
How do you feel about a purer?
Oh,
Yeah, fair enough. I didn't like it either, but I did say it. And then instead of this longsword, because we've already done our this, we're gonna just you gain, and I'll do that phrasing, but that just uses the official phrasing. You gain a. I almost just. You can.
Made using this weapon, right?
You can always look up some simple magic items online if you ever want to grab these notations. They're pretty hard to find. Do we have them in our document? These like you gain. I think we have like things like you gain a plus bonus.
Yeah, I think. If I jump on to DnDTime.stream and go down to Bartholomew's Guide to Enchanting, it might load. It loaded. And we can go to our language template for complex items. It looks like we don't have that in there actually exactly. So maybe that's something we need to add. V-Bunny like the purest. I do too, but I'm not sure we have a place to put it, right? So we don't want to devalue the pureness of the silver blade. Anyway.
It was more a joke than it was a serious recommendation. But I think it's goofy.
Yeah, so you get a +3 bonus to attack and damage with making this weapon. Additionally, while tuned to the sword, you are unshakable and stand resolute. You get immunity to the frightened condition, and so all breath attacks. What is that supposed to mean?
The implication I think there is that this blade is good against dragons, which when dragons use their breath weapon on you. Then you would just take no damage from those attacks, which is
nope.
Yeah, that's too much.
Just nope.
Immunity to the frightened condition is also pretty buck wild, but I am more okay with that as this being presumably a very high tier. I mean, this is a legendary item.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we say instead of all breath attacks, I think we can say gain immunity to the frightened condition and advantage on saving throws against the breath weapons of dragon. It, I think, still gets the point across without busting anything. Agreed.
Immunity to breath weapons can because we avoid stuff like that because that stuff has just the potential to completely invalidate an encounter.
Yeah, and the point, and I think in an ongoing campaign that might be a little more reasonable. It would be doable. It would still be a little weird to me, but you could do that. In D&D time, we never want to be in a circumstance if we can help it. And this is a lot of the reason why we got rid of all of the armor class stacking just everywhere.
Yeah.
Where one character is infinitely better than everyone else around them. And that can feel so bad for everyone else that's trying to play, especially if they have comparable characters. In terms of the characters do the same things. They all hit them things with swords, for example. And we just want to avoid that. We want to avoid that because it doesn't feel good. And that's what this would do against the dragon. This one's good, but it's not.
And I'd almost, like, if I I'm kind of cool with where it is, but I'm almost would want to, instead of doing immunity to the frightened condition, give it immunity to the frightened condition, like against the frightful presence of dragons.
I wouldn't call it legendary at that point, though.
Yeah, I would change it, and I think it's okay to be immunity to frightened condition, because that also feels like it ties into the heroism spell, which is a first level spell, and to just kind of always have like a frightened immunity, which is obviously a more powerful effect.
Well,
actually,
we could also just say you're under the effects of the heroism.
We could do that, but then that's also like,
it gets complicated.
it's kind of a pain in the ass with the hit points, and it'd be annoying to track, I feel like, as honestly as both a DM and a player. I feel like even though as a player you want those hit points, you don't actually want them.
Yeah, it gets complicated. The only reason I would say that is because it is the hero's blade.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I like the flavor of it, but I feel like mechanically it would be a little.
Yeah,
annoying.
it gets well, and that's another thing to note here, and we haven't run into one of those yet. Is items that require regular or repeated saving throws or rolls are bad.
Yeah,
because they slow down the game. It's the same reason we don't have, what is it? There's lots of summons in D&D. Anyway, I think we can call it immunity to the frightening condition and call it legendary, or we could just make it immunity to the frightening presence of dragons and call it high myth. But
I think the frightened condition has that resonance with the hero spell, and then we get into some like weird. It feels more like a hero's blade to me. If it's just you can't be frightened, you're the hero. You have the hero's blade.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, what +3 weapons aren't legendary?
Almost none.
Yeah, that's the problem. Because like a normal no effects +3 is very rare. So even if we did just have it be the frightening presence of dragons, it would still be a legendary item probably.
Yeah, I also feel like kind of just from a more meta perspective of D&D time, I feel like the legend items in D&D time tend to be a little bit more than just what you would think of as a legendary item.
So I think we can call this legendary and be happy.
Yeah.
Now,
things like time travel.
I want to make a quick note here. This is a legendary item. And this is pretty clearly a legendary item even before we started it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these we would skip over.
Yep.
Just as a base. Obviously, right now we're doing a show. We're not going to just skip over everything. But if something doesn't really strike out at us as a legendary item, we kind of generally avoid.
Like I would say that the last one that you did, Lance, the one like the water snake, that one had more work that needed to be done, but that one like hits me a lot more of being like something that you want in the legendary tier for us than this blade.
Well,
that one had a lot more, yeah.
Well, I would have probably wanted that to be in the lower, in like the high myth tier or mid myth tier.
Yeah, I mean,
just to make it more accessible
too, but
that
feels more legendary to me.
Yeah, well, because it's got a title and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Anywho, so talking about this one last time before we move on, given we put it in legendary, I kind of want to do something better than advantage on saving throws. How would you feel with resistance to damage? Of the breath weapons of dragon.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Damage dealt by.
Yeah. I like that a lot more because that is always good. Always good. That's never bad. Advantage can sometimes be, I already have advantage.
Yeah, and especially, you're probably thinking, oh, wait, I noticed another problem with this weapon. We did not specify what type of sword it was. A long sword, probably, right?
Yeah, I think it's a long sword. Anyway, yeah, I think this is good. I'm happy with it. I almost would be tempted to make this a +2 item and make it a myth tier. Personally, that was usually my preference if I'm doing something. unless this is very, very clearly supposed to be a legendary item, that is what I would do.
Yeah,
just to make it more accessible.
I'm probably in the same camp there.
What do you think, Lance? Let us know in the chat, and we're going to move on to the next item as you let us know how you feel. Would you prefer this to be a +3 legendary item or a +2 myth? Because I think even at myth tier it would have to be the fright. It couldn't just be straight frightened community. It's so good. Oh, this is totally the attunement, by the way.
Oh yeah, well, yep, it is. So let's talk. Let's talk the next one. That's going to be a V Bunny item. I think we said we're going to do his next, and don't worry, we'll get to that. I see you want to do the Crown of Celestial Stars, Max. We'll do that next after this.
And V Bunny, I think, had said
he wanted to do the Antizon head box. I think it was.
Oh, was that the one you wanted, V Bunny? I think you're correct. Let's jump over to the Antizon head box.
And I have that right here. And I will. Yep. Want me to take it away on this one? Or I think I read the last couple. You want to read this one?
Yeah, I need to get to it.
Oh, in that case, I'll just go. This otherwise ordinary cardboard box is surprisingly versatile and fits perfectly on any person's head. Putting the box on your head or taking it off your head takes an action. While this box is on your head, you can use a bonus action to take the hide action, giving you full cover but also blinding you. Additionally, as an action on your turn, you can make an attack action using the box. On a hit, the box deals no damage, but instead is placed on the head of an enemy, blinding them. As an action on their turn, they can remove their box from their head, removing the blind effect to them. All right. What do you think, Jeremy? Do you want me to start, or would you like to?
Well, yeah, go ahead. You start out.
So my first thought is this is a little bit convoluted. I like the flavor of it. I like it's very funny. It's very DnDTime. You just wear a cardboard box on your head and you do little stuff with it. But it has too many minor things that it can do and different like use cases that you cover for. I think, if I was kind of doing this item, I would probably pare it down to one of these effects. Maybe like you can pull the box down over your head and it gives you full cover.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of things it wants to do, but not a lot of clarity on how it does them. You make an attack action. Okay, what do you roll? There's no mechanics as to what you would roll to do that.
Yeah.
Beyond that, you hide. All right, you just make a stealth check. You have cover, but like, do they see the box? Can they still attack? Like, there's an uncertainty there. I think we can do something here, but
yeah, I think it just needs to be heavily pared down. I also don't quite get the flavor of it. Antizon head box.
I think the idea is it's like a very ordinary cardboard box.
Is it like is that like an Amazon thing?
I think everybody let us know.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just seeing it, and this is an item that we would normally otherwise skip over.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of uncertainty to us as to like how it goes. And I personally don't see the connection as to how Amazon, Antizon, the effects. I just don't really get it. It ties to a character. I see. It ties into one of your characters. This is something actually we should address too.
Yeah.
We get a lot of items that reference a character in DnDTime, and they are always thrown out. Almost always. Or they are changed to not tie in
directly
to that character.
Yeah.
They're made more. There are a couple of rare exceptions to that. But like when someone gets an item, it should be their special item. It shouldn't be your item that they happen to get.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing that we really, and you're not the only, this is not to point you out. We get this all the time.
It's very common.
All the time.
Very common one.
But yeah,
I think as we're wrapping up here, I think we can do something with this though.
Well, okay. It just seems like a lot.
Yeah,
to do,
I think it's something.
We have more people in the chat.
Yeah, you want to move on from this one?
I
mean, I'll say this.
I just don't know what I do with it. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't normally do something with this. That's definitely true.
I'm just not sure what we would do with it, right? Is it something that lets you hide, kind of like a solid snake kind of deal?
That's what I was thinking it was going for, was that you put it over your head and people just like, oh, it's just a cardboard box.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go for it, we can go for it. I'm just not sure. Like, I don't understand the flavor we want to try and preserve. Is the
Yeah. Okay. I'm down to call it.
Yeah, I'd like a solid snake box. And V-Bunny, this is something that we might go back and look at again. Maybe it's an item you could resubmit, would be awesome. With just a little more clarity as to what you wanted it to accomplish, because we missed that. We didn't
get down to the kind of nitty gritty on it.
Yeah, of the flavor and mechanics. Let's see. Crown of Celestial Stars was the one Max. I'm not seeing Crown of Celestial Stars.
Let me see.
Celestial Annulment? Is that?
Crown, I got it right here.
Okay, that's one of Lance's items.
Crown of the Celestial Stars.
This crown was created by a great celestial who wished to create more light in the night sky and thwart evil that wishes to create darkness. As an action, this item can be used to cast light cantrip. As an action, the wearer can use it to cast the Crown of Stars spell at 7th level. The attack bonus for the spell is +10. Once the spell has been used, it cannot be used again until the next dawn. Yeah, this is interesting. What's your first reaction, Pete?
My first instinct is it's a little bit too powerful for the simplicity of the mechanic, which is to cast the Crown of Stars spell.
Flavor-wise, I love it.
Yeah, me too.
The big problem, like Pete was just saying, is the Crown of Stars spell. That is an incredibly powerful spell. And generally speaking, when we have items that let you cast a spell, those items cast low-level spells. Even getting to level 3, it's always utility spells. Very rarely the fireballs and lightning, with rare exception.
Yeah.
And that's because anyone can get any item in D&D. A story tier character with this Crown of Stars spell, that runs into the exact, especially with that spell, runs into the same problem that we run into with a character with super high armor class that just can never be hit while everyone else dies around them.
Yeah, the Crown of Stars.
It makes everyone else feel bad. And that's a huge issue.
For sure.
And I think this would be doable. I'm sorry, Pete, go ahead.
I was going to say, there are things on the high end that are like that too, but like, for example, if a story shield character pulls a +3 sword, that's powerful, but it's not encounter breaking because that still scales off of their base stats to a degree. It just gives them a big boon, as opposed to this, which is just flat power.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there are ways we could revise this. We could have it be able to cast, like Daylight would be a good spell, perhaps. That could go on this. A magic missile used like a little shooting star could be a neat way to do this. But I don't know. It's hard because this item was 100% about the Crown of Stars spell.
Yeah. And I don't think you could salvage this item with the Crown of Stars spell. And Max is saying right there, the problem is Crown of Stars minimum level is 7. There's nothing that one could do to, like, I think, divorce this from the Crown of Stars spell.
Yeah. And so this is one of those items that we would pass by because we're
unable to use this one.
We can't preserve the flavor that you were going for without getting rid of it. Melf's minute meteors would be a way of handling. And actually, maybe that's how you do it. Melf's minute meteors, but the damage is rating something. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. It doesn't, like, it's similar. It doesn't feel quite as, what was being gone for, but
yeah.
And because of that, like, because we would feel kind of, Melf's, I think, is a decent substitution and would work. I think that would function as an item if you did that. But when we see it, it feels like we'd have to kind of, in a sense, like, ruin the flavor of your item to change it like that. We just won't do it.
We'd much rather not. And this is an item that I think would be awesome in a game, like in a campaign.
Yeah.
Radical. It's got some cool flavor to it. You can tie it back to, like, that higher tier, that higher echelon of adventuring gods and deities and creation, and it gives a really good spell, really cool effect.
Yeah.
But yeah, DnDTime, it's a little too over the top.
So
Let's jump to another one of bunnies, because we missed bunnies in the last turn. I'd like to do another one of it.
I want to look at another one of these whips.
Yeah, I mean, Bunny, would you like to do another whip?
I think all we got left are whips.
Yeah, let's do a whip.
I
really liked the name of the the trip whip.
Yeah, let's look at the trip whip.
What does the flip whip do?
I think it gives you acrobatics proficiency.
Take care, Lance. Enjoy as much as you can enjoy your day at work.
Would we be able to get like
notes? Oh,
I think I can answer pretty quickly. No, we wouldn't have time to go through and like send a notice for everything. That's it. I just don't think we would have time for that. It's already like time consuming enough to go through the items and then to have that extra layer added to it.
Yeah, I completely agree with Pete here. Bunny, I'm sorry, not Bunny, Sheba. In a perfect world, we absolutely could do that, but we're not a company. We're Pete and me, and we work our asses off just to do what we do.
Sometimes Crowley, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes Crowley. God, I'm sorry. I got Crowley. I'm not worthy.
Indeed. And I would, again, I would love to do that, honestly. I would love to like go through all of these and every time give people like I would love to do what we're doing right here for every item.
Yeah. It would just take a very, very long time.
Yeah, if there's ever a way that we would figure out how to do it, we would. But I don't see it happening.
Well, let's talk about this flip whip, because Bunny's saying he likes a flip whip. I love whips personally. I like underused weapons.
Me too.
Lances, whips, halberds. These are awesome weapons that are just infrequently used. Sorry, go ahead.
And when a whip, I was going to say, moves into that category where it's good enough that you're like, yeah, I'm going to use this whip. This is really good. That's awesome. Because then it becomes iconic. So let me read this. This +1 in the shape of leg is in the shape of a leg. Oh boy, deal 1d6 bludgeoning damage instead of the ordinary 1d4 damage. Additionally, while choosing this item, the user is treated as having proficiency with the acrobatics skill. If the user is already proficient in the skill, they can apply the proficiency bonuses twice to this skill instead. Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
It's almost good, I would say. And when I say almost good, I don't mean
it's almost ready. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously it's good.
Is there anything you'd want to change here?
Well, I think we have to make a couple of changes that we made last time, which is we have to give it a little bit of flavor and move around that +1 bonus and some phrasing stuff, and we're going to scrap the 1d6.
One of the things that I kind of like that isn't on here right now, which I think would be neat, and maybe this is just me, like what I would want to do with the item, is I would want to do like acrobatic tricks, like a performance thing.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because like this doesn't give you proficiency in performance checks, and it'd be the DM's discretion if they let you use acrobatics for your performance. But maybe we can say that on here when using the whip for whatever.
Yeah, if I was doing this item, I wouldn't do that, but I also can see it, and I think it works. So why don't we do that?
Sure. Okay. Let's put this in the thing. I got a pink. The whip is a leg. Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't understand it. I can't wrap my head right around it.
The flip whip.
But I want to keep it. There's some like raw creation in some of these, like this, where it's just like, I don't know, the whip's a leg. Like I almost like that sometimes. I don't go out of your way to create that effect in me, but there are times where the description, this whip is in the shape of a leg, is more than I ever needed to like. And that's exactly what I need to know about this whip.
And if we wanted to give that a bit more something, we could say like, while resting still, this whip naturally forms the shape of a leg. But I think we'd just say this whip is in the shape of a leg. Yeah. Or this whip is shaped like a leg.
And I genuinely like that a lot. You can,
sure.
I'll just say this: like, you can sometimes get me with stuff that seems ridiculous. That's all I'll say.
Oh yeah. All right. So we can just say while attuned. Oh, I'm sorry. We got to give this the plus whatever. Let's jump up to where we have that text on the other. Boop. And I think this is a +1 whip. I think. Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. While attuned to this item, the user is treated as having proficiency in the acrobatics. Oh, so this is interesting. The correct terminology is in the dexterity acrobatics.
Yeah. And then lowercase a, Jeremy.
Whatever. If the user is already proficient in the skill, God, what's text?
And we could probably.
There's
because you're saying
feat that does this.
We probably don't need to use the full is treated as having. I think we can probably say, well, attuned to this item, the user has proficiency.
Yeah.
Or is it gains proficiency?
So no, it's this. Gains proficiency.
Yeah.
Is already proficient in this skill. So instead of the user, it's you gain proficiency.
Yeah.
And still, if you are, it's interesting because the item's talking to you. If you're already proficient in the skill, your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability checks you make that uses this.
Oh, and are you doing that uses either of them for the?
No, I just going to have it. We have not had the Cool Whip. No, we have not had that one.
I think I've talked about the Cool Whip on stream before. Or that's maybe just like a discrete Cool Whip. I had a Cool Whip that I ran in a game once that I talked about, I think, on stream.
Sort of saying something about flipping an attack back at the attacker. Yeah, I mean, that is another direction this could have gone. I personally really like this one, but...
Yeah,
I like this.
The reason why we wouldn't take that suggestion sword on this is because when we do these, like, sometimes we'll have ideas like that, but then we'll always just be like, no, we want to try and keep it to like what they intended for it, even if we have a cool idea for a flip whip.
Yeah, absolutely. We always want to be as
true to the original idea.
Right, true to the design, true to the original concept. Anyway, so we have pretty much done. We're done. Great.
And the reason we do this is not
+1 weapon.
Potential for expertise in acrobatics is not insignificant because that's grapple escapes and stuff like that.
I'd say this is a fatal item.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
middle.
First instincts. If it just gave proficiency in acrobatics, I would have probably called it a story. But the potential for the
it would have been a high story though.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think I like this item a lot.
It
makes
me too.
Me happy. It's shaped like a leg.
And the reason we use the doubled notation on proficiency bonus is we don't want it to stack proficiency bonus an extra time and then also stack with expertise. So you just say doubled, so that way if it's it's an absolute, you can't double. It doesn't double twice. It's just is doubled.
Yeah, this is. And what's interesting is this is actually the exact language for expertise. The difference is it's just the ability is called expertise on the rogue or bard. This is the same terminology, and it's middle. It doesn't. Can we try the skull and crossbones if we have time?
We're out of time, but I think we could at least look at it and just tell you what we think of it. How about that?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let's jump over to Max's skull and crossbow. Oh, it is crossbone. Oh wait, I'm confused.
Here we are.
All right. Okay. Oh, I see. It's crossbone.
Yes.
This light crossbow, made of bones and an intimidating skull, was once wielded by a renowned pirate as their signature weapon, and bolts seek death to their target. Attacks made with this weapon ignore half cover. You get a +2 to attack and damage rolls made with this weapon. Attacks that hit a target must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw, or take 1d8 +2 bonus necrotic damage in addition to normal piercing.
Okay.
So I like it, but, and here's my caveat. This is a +2 weapon, and every time it hits a target, they have to roll a saving. That's interesting. Can crossbows make multiple weapons per turn? Make multiple attacks per turn?
Only with the
feat, right?
Which we don't allow in DnDTime. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, even though this has a saving throw on hit, I think that's okay.
I would probably still, if I was building this out, I would probably make it specify that it can only affect once per round or something like that. Just because Legend Tier exists and people can get feats, and then it would be frustrating to play with if we had to do that for like, a fighter making 3 attacks at a turn and then do it a bunch of times.
To be the first attack that hits per round, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But otherwise, this is a pretty good item. I mean, there's a little bit, I think we can clean up the flavor a teeny bit. I think I would just remove and bolt seek death to the right target. I just removed that last part, but otherwise it's perfect.
I would also consider removing the attacks ignore half cover, because that just doesn't feel like it has any flavor, along with like because you have the bones motif, so you're doing the necrotic damage I get, but I just didn't feel like the half cover thing fit in with the rest of the aesthetic.
It's just a little bit overdone, perhaps.
Yeah, a little too much on that.
Now, what I might do to make this special, because at this point we've narrowed this down to it's a +2 weapon that just does a little bit extra necrotic. I would also pull the +2 off the necrotic damage just for convention. But
yeah.
So how do we make this a little more interesting? I think what I would probably do is I would say it ignores the necrotic resistance of undead creatures.
That's really cool, and I like that a lot. And
I think that's a nice way to make it really keep that uniqueness.
And I would say this, if we got to that point on the item and Jeremy had like a really cool idea really quick there, if we weren't inspired like that and like, this is the extra thing that I think is going to make it cool in the bag, this is one that we might skip, but it all depends on like inspiration in the moment to some degree there.
Yeah. But otherwise, I mean, it's a cool item. I dig it. I mean, I think a lot of people would be super into getting the skull and crossbow. Because it's fun, right? It's fun, it's flavorful, and with that, it's good too, which is even better. It's situationally good, and that's not always. But yeah, I think with that, we are just about finished up for the night. I see V Bunny just resubmitted the head box, so we will check that out
for sure.
I hope I inspired more whips. Oh yeah, absolutely, V Bunny. There will certainly be more whips.
I know we're gonna see more whips. I'm
very interested to go back to the rest of the whips.
We're gonna see dip whips. We're gonna see lip whips. Sip whips. Oh, the sip whip. I want a drink of my whip.
What about the whip?
The work in progress whip.
That's pretty troll.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's gonna probably.
I'm sorry. Zero asking in chat. Did you guys talk about whips tonight? We did make 2 whips tonight.
Made a couple of goofy whips.
I hope you enjoyed the VOD.
Indeed, as well. Thank you everyone for hanging out. Yeah, I think we're wrapping up for the night. So much love to all of you. We really appreciate you guys hanging out. For all of you guys, I just want to say an extra special thank you to those of you who chose to submit items to the bag and who like took the time to put all the work into all these items here, because there's like consistently, I know like there's times where it looks like well, we can't use a lot of this stuff, but there's just so much creativity in the bag, and it would not be the same without you guys putting in these awesome things that we find within.
Absolutely. And actually, before we even move off, I just want to say, Sword Co here saying the licorice whip. Sword, if you guys had like taken time in the Myth Adventure to like explore the town of Twizzle, I actually had a Twizzle whip that you guys could find there, which is just a mundane whip that can be stretched out into 60 feet of rope. But I guess it'll just have to be in the bag now. Anywho, thank you guys a bunch for jumping in and for playing. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not a Twizzler, it's licorice. Sorry, we love you guys. What are we doing next week, Pete? What's
That's
our
a
week?
great question. Our week next week is looking stocked and loaded, full of great content for you, including on Wednesday it's DnDTime Talks. Tuesday was this past week. So Wednesday DnDTime Talks. We're going to talk about something. I'm sure we don't know what it is yet. Do you have any ideas floating around right now, Jeremy?
I do, but they're secret.
Oh, in that case,
You'll find out tomorrow at our weekly announcement.
And also tune in on Friday for Pete and Jeremy's D&D Time. For anyone who might be unfamiliar with Pete and Jeremy's D&D Time, it's a show we run every week where we play games with you lovely people hanging out and talking to us and hanging out in chat and lurking in the shadows. We run 3 one-shots each week, and you can sign up and find out how to do so underneath the stream below us here.
Yeah, and you can always jump into our Discord in the link in the chat. Bada boom, bada bing. Thank you so much. That's the end for the evening. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Pete.
And this is D&D Time Brews.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.